And then, being very, very risky with his money, being risky just to build up a whole, like, in the middle of cornfield in Iowa from all places, besides that. And there's really no reason other than his relationship with his father. I think that was catch. I don't remember that, but that's just.
Right, he doesn't even realize that until later, but
Yeah,
it's like this like command auditory hallucinations that he's following.
If we're gonna start out with the idea that this Field of Dreams, might be a fictional case of new onset schizophrenia. Um. Review the 5 inclusion criteria, and I already heard delusions, but tell me. Which 2 that he demonstrates? And so I think you got a threshold already. For purposes of the reviewing the shelters, what are the other 3?
Disorganized behavior.
Right, which he might actually do. Negative symptoms, which he may or may not remember for.
Sort of speech.
Right, but. That one's a softball.
We don't necessarily see it, but it could also be a perspective thing. In terms of the disorganized speech. If we're seeing, if we're kind of like experiencing things mostly from his perspective, he might not view it as, we may not be getting that presentation of disorganized. I see it.
Right, oh no, that is probably right, yeah. So far he's ruling in, right, so you observed at least 2 of these. The next step is to acknowledge and appreciate that this condition, schizophrenia, is a diagnosis of a solution. So which 5 illnesses must we consider now and review?
Major depressive disorder, psychotic disorder.
Yeah, so primary mood disorder, right, which I already heard schizoaffective, right? And that is a second, so we only have 3 more to go from this list.
Substance use.
Substance use psychotic disorder. Any substance use in this movie? I mean, I think in the voiceover, in introducing the film, he mentions how. He lived through the 60s and.
Yeah.
He smoked pot once, but. That's probably gonna require a little bit more follow-up. But otherwise, I don't know if there's anything overt in this film that suggests the role of substances. Come on.
Medical, other.
Yeah, I mean,
Larry.
could be right. Definitely could be. The good news here is that. Actually sees the doctor. And it appears that he gets a clean bill of health. Right? So probably not underlying medical condition that could explain the nuance of psychosis. Well, yeah,
Right,
primary
but-
mood disorder, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna go back to these. After you name me the 5th and final, you're gonna tell me where your hierarchy then is. 5th and final is an autism spectrum disorder. And even if there was a prequel that existed, that demonstrated that Ray Kinsella actually has established autism spectrum disorder, it would not apply here. Because while the overlap of symptoms, including disorganized behavior, disorganized speech or thought process, is the reason why the DSM or the APA requires clinicians to investigate and rule out. Even with someone with that pre-established condition of ASD, with nuanced delusions and hallucinations, can still be diagnosed with schizophrenia. So he has multiple signs that would not be explained by a pre-existing ASD. So it really doesn't matter whether or not he has autism spectrum disorder. So of these, which ones do you want to leave in our differential?
Primary.
One of them, sort of? Okay.
Oh,
It sounds like Field of Dreams is kind of shaping up as a clinical discussion of schizophrenia, schizoaffective primary mood disorder. It's like that's kind of where it's shaping up, which is a very, very common question. It's not plural questions on a shelf. And you really do have to tease these apart. And Field of Dreams hopefully allow us to do that. First and foremost, starting with provisional schizophrenia, we ask me the question, do you think there is a mood component to his illness? If you're saying yes, we are going to ditch this condition of schizophrenia for the time being. And I think really focus our attention on the other two conditions, both of which have an affective component, right? Primary mood or affective disorder with psychotic features versus schizoaffective. If you say, no, there's no evidence of any mood symptoms, either really you think it's schizophrenia, well, obviously we're going to go down a different avenue. So which is it?
Based on the delusions of grandeur kind of thing and the risky behavior, like. I think it's definitely possible.
If it's definitely a possibility, nice like the words. We're gonna go down that route, and when in doubt, say yes. I mean, it requires more work, I think, on the front end, but what case conferences are actually free. So let's say yes, and let's get into this differential between the primary mood disorder and this psychotic disorder that is labeled schizoaffective. Right? Generally speaking, how are we going to differentiate these?
Psychotic features and movement features present at the same.
And at different times, obviously, the one that exists in the absence of the others will give us a huge clue as to what the primary condition or disorder is. Do we see any evidence of this? And I'm taking the collective hesitation as a no.
We kind of see this like limited window of time, and it could be, like, it could conceivably be just like one prolonged kind of manic episode.
I don't disagree.
We don't really get I mean, we kind of get this montage where they're like, this happens and they're building the field, and how long did that really take to like excavate the corn and do all that stuff. So that's kind of a question, but he also doesn't really come to him. You don't get a sense that he comes to himself during that time and says like, oh, why are we doing the field?
What we would need is the prequel. The really, and that's the easy parallel to the past psychiatric history. Like, we're gonna sit in front of a real person for an hour psychiatric evaluation. And we get a slice of time for that 1 hour where we see co-occurring mood that is affective and psychotic symptoms. We may ask, but we really need that past psychiatric history as well as probably collateral information as to what pre-existed and what pre-existed without the evidence of the other. That'll really clarify things for us, and that's in our fictional sense. For prequel. Unfortunately, we don't have it.
So, one thing, I think, so I read True's Road, like the source book, and probably one, that's probably been like 10 years. But I do distinctly remember, that one, like, Ray is so moody. He is like, I think he feels like his happiness and prospects in life are like, which I mean, of course they are like financially, but also his mood is extremely dependent on his success in building the Field of Dreams. That's one. And then the other one is, the author was J.D. Salinger, who he like excavates and decides to kind of involve in this whole thing. And J.D. Salinger is such a choice because I mean, but also because he writes a strong schizophrenic character also. And Kinsella is a self-insert almost. So I think there's like in points towards schizophrenia in like the literary sense, but then but also like Ray in that book is visibly moody, and his wife comments on it. Like, he goes on it kind of a long kind of escapade, like trying to figure a lot of this stuff out, comes home after like several months. And his wife reacts to him coming home like he's having a mood episode and he's finally over it, kind of. Yeah.
And I think the critical term there would be irritability.
Sure.
Right, and only because that's what the APA publishes as part of the definition. The hallmark criteria of a manic episode, right? It's an elevated, expansive, or irritable mood. So there definitely might be some consistency there, right? Irritable mood. Any other thoughts about this?
Interesting background. I mean, not specifically related to that, but I think the kind of like shared delusion definitely found this thing, like that other people eventually can see these like then. Okay,
Yeah, he made everything up,
Yeah.
everything is a delusion slash like hallucination, even the wife, I don't know any way that would be that okay. With being like, oh, like I heard a voice and I'm gonna use all our savings to build a baseball field.
That is, so there's also another key component to that, when everyone else started hearing and seeing and hearing everything that he was on, that led me to believe there might be something. Like a drug use or a poisoning type deal, because, I mean, if they're in Iowa, chances are they're. Especially where they're at in Iowa, people don't really care what they probably dump in water or somebody's dumping, it seems like everyone's getting all these symptoms, so there's a possibility that. Maybe the virus poison at some point, but that would be the shared thing that everyone, why everyone.
But
Yeah,
also,
they
that doesn't make sense to me because the man, what's the first name?
Exhausted
Yeah, he like has the delusion while they're like away or like in that city.
in the state.
And he's like, oh, I heard it. Yeah.
On the snowboard.
Was it for this movie that you had mentioned that, like, you noticed he's holding a cup of coffee and each of them gets, okay,
We'll get there.
okay.
Oh, yeah.
I
We'll
didn't even notice that.
we'll talk, we'll talk about it. Yeah. So, first, Terrence Mann. When, he, visits Terrence Mann. And, Terrence Mann gets out of that thing, only to have him make that U-turn and see him again. There was a medical student, who was not from the school, several years ago, that just completely nerded out and, realized that could not happen. The amount of time that it would have taken him to go from the curb to where he was at in that U-turn, it's very unlikely. At that point, they think that everything becomes the product of Ray's mind. The other kind of cool thing about it is that, and I decided to kind of double check that, and in double checking it, if you go frame by frame, there's actually a single frame where he vanishes.
Wait,
Terrence Mann.
oh,
He's outside and the van begins to pull away and through the back passenger side window. The one frame is this down there. Again, I think that's just obviously, or is it, right? But just to support my medical student, I think she may have been silent or something.
That makes sense because when they picked up.
Thank you.
Or, like, it makes sense because like when they picked up the kid on the way home, and then he just runs. He was the whole channel, like, you know,
By that time, yeah, I think-
I was. All of a sudden, the guy who was dead was there and I'm so confused.
I think the major revelation of the movie. You could look back retrospectively and realize, there might be a significant into this, sensitive into this relationship they have with his dad. And when you actually then bring up the script and again, if you nerd out and go with the search function. The reason why he gives, as to why he's never talked to his dad again, if you read that closely, you can read into it that this may have been a manic episode. He was very irritable as an adolescent, and he just kind of, kids will be kids, or adolescents say stupid things. I forgot, I'm paraphrasing. But if he were to say that in a clinical setting, every clinician would have applauded and asked, tell me more. Because I think the light would have went off because we're looking at someone who's in his mid to late 30s. The onset of bipolar is likely more towards early 20s, perhaps even the mid to late teens. That's exactly where he was. I don't know if that's a coincidence or again, give us something to that.
I wonder if there could be some sort of history of trauma. It's like, he didn't like really say anything, but they did, he was just like very vague about his relationship with his dad, saying that they were always arguing a lot. So I don't know, and then I know this, like, the mom died really young, that's also a stressor that the dad could have been facing at the time.
Framed it as like, he did what he could with the circumstances, which is kind of like a retrospective of like a lot of problems in the moment, and then in hindsight, he sees the bigger picture of why things may have happened.
So when you begin to build these scenes chronologically, he's somewhere in, I would say, late September, maybe early October, when he hears the voice for the first time. Which again, it's perhaps in the context of engaging depressive episode, which itself probably is part of a chronic bipolar illness. He goes into the doctor, right, who wasn't the best portrayal of medicine, and begins to trip about agriculture. What, if you want to be a psychiatrist, I saw a psychiatrist. And then you fast forward several months, right? I mean, there's some, there's some modest montage, but then you go to the following spring. And I think during that time, there's definitely reason to assume that he may have been actually referred to a psychiatrist, and if so, very likely to have been started on a medication. Now, if you were that psychiatrist and you had the conversation that we're having here, and we're thinking this might be a bipolar illness. Let's talk a little bit about the treatment for bipolar, especially in the setting of active visual hallucinations. Well, initially auditory, soon to keep it. Spoiler alert. We're working with auditory hallucinations that appears to be part of a major mood episode. Thoughts?
Stabilizer plus.
Yeah, it's standard of care, right? You go to dual therapy, right? So mood stabilizer and antipsychotic. And then for your observation, don't know what the antipsychotic was. Matter of fact, I believe it's none of the above. I think that this is where the psychiatrist probably dropped the ball and just prescribed the mood stabilizer called lithium. I do think that Ray was compliant with his lithium, but we picked this up the following spring. And then what did we say?
Let's go back.
Communication, there's increasing financial stress, we're actually talking about the bill, right, which cannot be ignored. I think that combination with lower lithium levels results in another medical episode, as hallmarked by now visual hallucination.
But also just stop taking this medication too. Like he was very fixated on baseball throughout that montage.
Yes, yeah. Yeah. So, one of the reasons why I think, I mean, and we would definitely, right, either way we're getting it, and that is definitely the clinical question that's being posed, that you still take the lithium, and whether the patient says yes or no, you're getting the lithium level, and I would not be surprised if the lithium level is subtherapy. So the maintenance doses we're typically doing maintenance, probably 4 and 8, the maintenance doses, which may have been lowered through the winter. But therapeutically, it's obviously people are signs and too. But once the manic symptoms improve, we look at maintenance doses. Bottom line is that it is on a level that has been like full low, 0.4. Right? And one of the reasons why I think it's probably more or less to do with drug compliance is because it's in that scene. Because if you look at it, if you just follow through with this, at least it gives you on the curve that caffeine can interact with lithium and it can lower lithium levels. Right? If it's non-compliance, you're not going to remember that for the results. But if you look closely at that, even when he's driving to Boston, and then he gets to Boston. Okay. So somewhere, I think there's drug interaction. I think there's low lithium levels, and I think there's a manic episode. That is awesome. Yes, but I'm missing putting in a coffee cup.
Yeah, wait, can you remind us of what?
It could be alcohol.
The coffee. He's drinking coffee like whenever, what?
He just drinks more coffee and stand.
Which would lend to suggest that caffeine interacting with lithium result in lower lithium levels. Manic episodes. So that's. Again, no, we don't see anything brown. Again, it was off, there's stuff in that bottle. He's getting the rainbow green as well. Talk a little bit of lithium. All right, so you, again, let's rewind and let's talk about Ray seeing you at referral, at or around the time of early November, maybe, his first appointment with you. you diagnose bipolar one, you diagnose a manic episode, you are going to likely prescribe an antipsychotic along with the lithium. Let's focus on the lithium just for a second. In terms of lithium, what baseline tests?
Liver,
Right, liver and thyroid, any others?
yeah.
Yeah, kidney more than liver. I'm worried about the kidney and creatinine more than the liver, certainly the thyroid as well. Day 5, you're gonna get a lithium level, and for idiosyncratic effect, you're probably gonna get the creatinine, BUN, as well as the TSH again, to make sure nothing, wacky is happening. Why day 5 the lithium level?
That.
Dr. Mintz told you yesterday.
That where you're kind of thinking about maintenance dose rather than a living dose.
No, actually, this is probably you want a therapeutic dose. If it's in November, when you're first prescribing this.
It takes 3 days.
Why? You can't ask the pharmacist. Sorry. Yeah, any medications that follow first order kinetics, you check at 5 hours. I think officially it's like 98.5%, in psychiatry, 98.5%. So it's at a steady state for all intents and purposes. There's only one medication that does not follow steady state for which we draw blood levels. What is it? And because it's gonna come up in your shelf exam. So it's psychotropic, but I don't care about other medication that I don't prescribe. The one psychotropic that does not follow first order kinetics, so you simply can't provide a half-life and time it 5 half-lives. Before I guess it does follow first order kinetics, single best answer, day 4. 5 half-lives, okay, we're gonna show that. If I doesn't. Clozapine. Oh, I don't think it's possible. You're close in terms of pronunciation. Diazepam, clozapine, down, close. One more guess. Yes, you're right, you weren't that close. Thank you. In retrospect. Carbamazepine.
Oh.
Tegretol or carbamazepine does not follow first order kinetics. There are people actually wait 3 weeks. You get a drug out. And that's just why it's for consensus. So, no science behind it. Just a little bit of a tangent. I really don't think this pertains today, but again, it pertains to the show. What are you going to talk about with your patient? Actually, let's do this. Patient comes in like red, and you put him on Tegretol. You're following him, and you get a phone call from his wife in March/April, months after being sustained with no symptoms, that he is right now mowing down his field because of not only a voice, but him seeing things. Pretty much what happens. Thoughts? Check calcium levels are normal. Which it is. So it's a 3,4-A inducer. So what?
Low causes.
Let's look at 300.
I lost it. Sorry.
You're on the right track.
Maybe it's like having out there, like, it's like alcohol or something.
Is it the sensitivity changes with long use?
What do you mean?
Like they get exhausted.
Yeah.
Is the antipsychotic processed by CYP enzyme?
It is. But it's 1A2, so different enzyme. So you're right, carbamazepine is actually a P450 grade 4 inducer.
That induce, is it like a cyclical thing?
Yeah, what is that called?
Positive
Positive
feedback.
feedback, there's just more receptors now, so it's metabolites faster.
It's an auto inducer.
I don't know. What it is.
It induces the very enzyme that
That's
metabolites through. And that can just happen one day. One late March day. And all of a sudden, it just auto induces.
How do you treat that?
Switch. Yep. And then the other way this comes up in terms of being a 3A4 inducer is another medication that is also metabolized through 3A4 that you have to tell your patient who can't be on. What is that? This comes along the shuffle all the time.
It's not an MAOI.
OCP. Yeah, but if your cholesterol goes at 250, and as a psychiatrist, I do not want my patients getting pregnant. Right, so, they cannot, I mean, they could be in an OCP, but it's not gonna work. And you can't get pregnant on these medications, so that's a must have discussion. That the full contraceptive pill metabolized with a very enzyme that this medication has someone who's just cryogenic induces. Again, in this case, not a big deal. All right, so you start lithium on red. And if labs are normal and follow-up labs are every 3 to 4 months. Which are the same. I want to know which is EFR, which is a feeling to that an estimate. The thyroid, I'll get calcium. And obviously levels. And then he shows up popping. So what does he look like? Right, so there you go. And then on your self exam, single best answer. Next, what's the next step? He's stop the lithium, then what's the next step? Nope. Nope. Now. Good idea though. Go with it. Lithium is too small for chelation. Right, it's only set the atomic number at what?
Hydrate is.
Huh?
Hydrate.
No, well, yes, but no. We always hydrate. Emergent hemodialysis. Shell cancer. Lavage and chelate hemodialysis. Hemodialysis is the treatment for any symptomatic. And you can use osmotics and titration. And we do that for mild symptoms, but again, for symptomatic lithium toxicity is acute hemodialysis. All right. Tell me the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. So that means you know the difference between mania and hypomania.
Less than 4. Greater than greater. I knew it was something like 4.
And then the degree also different, so like mania is significantly disabling and hypomania is
I definitely say it doesn't.
It does not.
It does not. So it does its meaning. Good. And then the difference between what would be above and cyclophymic, or cyclophymic disorder.
Well, you don't check the date of that one.
About 20% down, 80%.
I'm thinking is doesn't quite meet the criteria for a major depressive episode, and doesn't meet for manic episodes, so it's like the minor versions of that.
Isn't there like 2 hours or 2 months?
Yeah.
For example.
Is that?
It's like. I think-
Yes.
So that one's longer.
Critical study, very long. This is like a chronic. Yeah. Is that?
I think it's like over a 2 year span.
Without.
Great.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like, that's like the-
Yep. That makes sense. Right, those criteria that define the sort of the condition formerly known as consignment apply. So 2 years and, never too much without. You have to remember. What else about Ray? You know, another thing about lithium is that it's one of few medications that it is actually anti-suicidal. Suicide rates are relatively high, if you look at bipolar. And with his lithium level being so low, you know, you can interpret his meeting moonlight grams as a ghost, as symbolic. Many people have interpreted field of dreams as that death experience, once he reaches Minnesota.
He also like wanted death. Well, like he was getting so mad that he wasn't able to go like into the court. Like not even thinking about his like kids, and that's what the other guy said. And, he was like, what about me?
Like regressing back to the very was hot.
One of the things that stuck out to me with Ray was the way he was attracting his daughter in the same way she kept saying about his engines and kept being like dismissive of her. I think he was talking about in finances, like him and his wife at the table, and she was watching baseball. And even in the first instance, when she asked him a question about baseball, which is something that supposedly enjoys, he was like a little bit annoyed in his tone. And then he kept getting progressively more annoyed, even though she wasn't saying anything, but she was just trying to get him for permission. And then he only, for the attention that he saw that they but it was kept referencing not wanting to turn into his father, but I think in that moment, everything that's it's like, yeah.
Generally speaking, early on in the course of bipolar, and we should always, I think, address any mental disorder, any behavior for that matter, as biopsychosocial. And again, I mentioned this to you before, it's worth restating that that means all three in terms of what predisposes, precipitates, and perpetuates behavior as well. So build that 3 by 3 rubric. And anytime you take a patient's history, try to fit all the risk factors into those 9 squares to get a nice visual of not only what biopsychosocial is impacting your patient, but where. Is it a predisposing element? Is it a precipitant? Or is it a perpetuating factor? Right. For Ray, we can't dismiss the financial stress, and you can't dismiss how he was predisposed to this given his non-adaptive relationship with his father. And you can't also dismiss the fact that he's at the age when his father died, right? It's all around that birthday, right? It's all because of that birthday. So all that's got to be taken into account in terms of why now, like what triggered this, what precipitated.
He has several things that talked about. I was wondering if his father had any dreams. Usually that was like.
Mhm.
So, you know, it might be something that not, but like some, well.
we haven't even run nothing around. Like some clues from each other's abilities.
Other observation. I think his brother-in-law seems to be a little bit of fun, but I didn't was any overt, you know, brother sort of discuss and went back to the family. I mean,
Like you brother, like her brother? Yeah. I thought he made some great sense towards some kind of, being like, maybe this isn't the best financial decision.
clear. He's definitely the reality that he's here. Again, and to your point, I think what about that, whether. Perhaps you, it's on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you know, and, even though this does appear to be bipolar, there are ideas of reference here. I mean, he reads things into very neutral events. Which can happen with bipolar, but certainly happens with psychotic processes.
It was like a montage of things. Science and like hard.
Even where he's just like sitting there, like, there's a very vague message that he got, and it was like, oh, man, that's the person that's referring.
And we're here because of that, yeah, right, it's supposed to be. That's why we're here, I gotta be, that's what it means. Yep, and then even said the same thing a couple of scenes later, he carries. And, Bible, and, I think it's maybe a very much.
It's more of like servant, like he doesn't really listen to his wife. Like, he was like very happy sleeping after the game. He was talking about himself. She's asking him to come home. It's like, I gotta go to Boston, like, or something.
Initially Boston.
Okay, I thought it was. And like even when she calls on the phone, he's like, I gotta stay. And so he just seems like very self-serving to himself.
Well, honestly, the same thing that she ever questions any of the suspicions. Yeah, kind of just like goes along with them and like supports whatever he wants to do. I never heard like any doubt or kind of
Only like
voice or like anything that she said. Oh, why are we moving? Why are we? It's just-
It's gonna be something like that. And I think one Jackson, like,
Yeah. That's why I think she's fake.
So you're thinking that even though he gives us in the introduction and the voice, the reason that we are open to that he moved to Iowa.
no, she is real, but like, I don't know, maybe like there's some delusion there where like she's actually saying something but it's not quite hearing it. I don't know.
Questions about bipolar? Yeah. Any questions about the treatment of bipolar? Again, I think, standing up there would be to have put Ray on antipsychotic, especially if there's one of the best people to do. Reliable.
We did one. So we won that.
I'm sorry, what was that? Oh, yeah, I do it, it shows in a medication, specifically antipsychotic medication that is immediately approved with two antipsychotics. And therapy level pathetically was, sub-threshold, sub-therapeutic. The coverage from the co-prescribed antipsychotic may not have resulted, or may have averted of what happened the following spring. Assuming that this was not open enough compliance and they had stopped antipsychotic. So, the movie would have been done after about 40 minutes. It's all I covered very well. Final thoughts? I got deleted here. I posted, finally the last time. I'll tell you that. I'm gonna post, I'll post next week's, what we read on today. And if there are topics, subject matter, think about it, let me know if anything comes up. One of you, thank you guys. Clinical cases canceled for today. Retreat back to the, how many, both teams here, how many